everyone, to this beautiful Monday night, May 1st one, the Light Gate, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana, at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. We're on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. We have a very, very good show tonight, so I'm just going to do the one thing I really need to do. Thank our sponsor, Carnation. We love you guys. We know that I'm going to cut you short right now. Y'all go here with this. I'm telling you. Preston, go.
Yes, thank you, Carnation. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on episode, can't believe it, 157 of The Light Gate. I, of course, am your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Saffron, contactee, subject of my book, Symmetry, soon to be a sequel. We're getting closer every day. So super excited about our guest tonight, and I'll get to him in just a brief second. Let me say a quick hello to you folks in chat, because as I always say every Monday, we love you so much. It's because of you we do this show and have so much fun every Monday evening. Or wherever you are in the world, it might be morning. I suspect it is for some of you. So let's see who we have here. It's a huge crowd already. Thank you guys. Amazing. Teresa Levine and Alma Man. Next Level Sleep from Scotland. I just love that. Johnny J2B from East Tennessee.
Oh, boy.
We have Olivia Escamilla. I'm not going to have time to say hello to all you folks, but I'm going to do my best. Cherise Bazilla. Oh my goodness, Heidi Hansen. Big hugs all the way from Denmark. We love you, Heidi. Thank you for joining us. You're amazing. Texas Cacti. Oh, Heidi saying happy birthday tomorrow. It's May 6th. Yeah, Dolly is May 8th. I'm May 6th. So thank you guys for all the birthday wishes that you've been sending me. Truly appreciate that. Namaste. Wow. So very, very kind and generous of you. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for supporting the show. It means a lot. Hello, my bud. We got greetings from Louise from New Jersey. Awesome. Becky Sloan.
Oh, Becky, thank you.
Cool. We have Shelly. Oh my goodness, Louise.
Oh,
wow.
Louise.
You are awesome. We're going to have to send you a book or something.
Yes.
That's insane. Thank you. Very, very, very kind and generous of you.
Yes, we do.
Dr. Nils, hello. Painting the Sky Kingdom. We got Metal Hendrix and Pogo Joe and Stargazer and Punk Ass. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yes, all is well. Punkus.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, oh wow, you guys.
Oh, man, thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys are absolutely amazing. SV Harkin. Love, love, love. We love you. Love.
Hey, that's nice.
Oh, wow. Super Tinker. You guys are absolutely awesome today. Kiara Jade. And sorry if I missed a couple of you, but we do want to get the show going. So let me just put the banner here so you can see who our guest is whilst I read his bio. And I have that right here. Yeah, we were so pleased. We're honored and delighted to welcome Ron James. He is award-winning filmmaker and researcher and more. He's an on-camera personality, a writer, editor, researcher, content creator, entrepreneur, and the media relations director for MUFON, which is, of course, the Mutual UFO Network, and also serves on the board of directors of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. You may remember we had Dan Harari on our show. He's also a part of that. And we want to give Dan a thanks for hooking us up with our guest tonight. So thank you, Dan. So this is pretty exciting because our guest's most recent documentary is Accidental Truth Next, UFO Revelations. This is narrated by Matthew Modine. Our guest has won, count this, 28 film festival awards and was even cited by name during a UAP congressional hearing by Representative Tim Burchett. You know you've hit the big times when your name is being mentioned in Congress. So this film has been called, and I quote, one of the most important UFO documentaries of all time, particularly for its compelling case on legacy programs and its uncanny ability to anticipate the headlines. The Accidental Truth Next has not yet been released. It's being released later this month, but the first one, Accidental Truth, is amazing. So James, this is of course a frequent guest on Ron is a frequent guest on podcasts and television programs such as Ancient Aliens, and he regularly contributes to such series as The Unexplained, The Proof Is Out There, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, and I think there's a few more there. He is the co-founder of MUFON Television, the world's largest online collection of commercial-free UAP-related programming, and over his career, he has produced multiple feature-length documentaries and dozens of independent series episodes, and his work has earned 42 national awards, including 4 EBE Awards, a Telly Award, 4 Aegis Awards for Excellence in Broadcasting, and currently he's producing his own shows, including Bigger Questions, Space Time, and MUFON Presents. His upcoming sequel, Accidental Truth Next, is once again narrated by Matthew Modine and is slated for release, I believe it's this month, later in spring 2026. So without further ado, I'm just going to bring him on and say hello.
Welcome to the Light Day.
Hi, guys. Wow. Just listening to that wore me out.
Yeah. I stumbled a bit. It's so long, but that's good.
That's good, though. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, first, just a huge thanks for taking time out of, I know, your busy schedule to come and do our little show. We're very, very honored. So thank you.
Well, I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me on. We've orbited in the same realm for quite some time, Preston. So it's nice to finally get to do something with you.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about doing UFO research is getting to meet all the people involved in this. It's kind of an elite group, really. Not a whole lot of people, but now it's breaking into the mainstream, I think largely because of films like yours. So yay, this is pretty cool. So I know I talked to you in the green room about asking about your childhood and how you got involved in this field, but I thought we'd first start with this 3-minute what's it called? The review introduction.
Oh, this is the trailer for the new film, I think.
Yeah, that's
Accidental Truth came out in April of 23. It won 28 awards and it got a lot of recognition. It didn't get the kind of recognition that some of the other filmmakers get for their films because I'm not quite as famous, but I'm very happy with how it did. And I didn't want to make another film until I could move the ball again. And so this is the follow-up to the first Accidental Truth movie, and it's called Accidental Truth Next. And the whole theme is that, we have to start asking all new questions, and we have to start looking at this phenomenon from completely different standpoints. Once we acknowledge the existence of a non-human intelligence, where do we go from there? And that's what I'm doing with this film.
Cool. All right, let's play the trailer. It's 3 minutes long because we do want people to see this film.
Right.
We will have links in the show notes
so you guys can follow directly this up. To it in YouTube.
But let me. I don't often use this technique here, so let me make sure this is working. There we go.
Hey, there's aliens.
We already know life exists in the universe.
It's been over 8 years since we heard about the government UFO program, ATIP. Are we any closer to an official government disclosure regarding non-human intelligence?
They briefed us on some stuff that was frankly terrifying.
The DoD and the intelligence community is very comfortable saying it's unknown.
What are we actually talking about?
I can't share with you the details, ma'am.
There are those who will stop at nothing to hide the truth.
Whistleblowers are safe. I will guarantee that.
I have no job. My career has been tarnished.
People have been killed.
It's likely a balloon. It's likely a balloon, a bird. It's starting to sound like a broken record.
Exotic materials are the holy grail.
I was on the team that was supposed to receive that.
What I really wanted to do was put some materials in the hands of Arrow that came from a UFO.
My bit is stuck.
We're gonna have to try something else.
I mean, that stuff should have liquefied like mercury by now.
I thought it should have. I have no explanation for that.
This is a technology that has long since bled into what we call consciousness.
I'm here to drop off the sound list.
Could non-human intelligence come in many forms?
Our historical timeline has been interrupted by an alien intelligence.
There is a variety of life forms.
From the earliest times, we've had writings of people interacting with non-human intelligence.
People have accepted these things as real.
All of this has to do with the nature of reality itself.
When I say we're in a simulation, there is something that is computing.
We live in something that has a software program.
It's all about consciousness.
Perhaps we've been guided subtly and deliberately.
All the religions have been telling us that there are other beings.
We're in the middle of a revolution right now.
There is a dark side to disclosure, a secret too terrible to be told.
Our future is post-biological.
In a sense, they're midwives or undertakers.
Humans served their purpose.
It may not mean surrendering our spirituality.
You can only beat down the truth for so long.
We're at a point where reality doesn't matter.
We have all new questions. It's time to discover what's next. Accidental Truth. Next, a film by Ron James, narrated by Matthew Modine.
Wow. All right, let me pull that off here. Damn, that is very intriguing. Nice trailer.
Thank you.
Very cool. So I can see you've got pretty much every facet of ufology covered there, from experiencers to whistleblowers to congressional hearings. So that's pretty exciting. That's pretty rare.
Yeah, we start off in Washington, D.C. and follow the process. And I take people behind the scenes to really see the work that people like myself and MUFON were doing. And there are things that people are going to see that behind the closed doors in Washington that are going to blow them away as far as what we've actually been able to do and how we've been able to document it. But then also you saw the scene with the broken record. We eventually get to the point where it's like, look, this process of disclosure has taken us as far as we're going to get. We need to start looking elsewhere for answers. And so the journey takes a complete right-hand turn, and it's just like, hold on tight, because we're going to be starting off in Washington, D.C. and ending up on the edge of reality all in one movie.
Wow.
Thank you, Pogo Joe. I appreciate that. I see the comment.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
He's the one that bought it. Yeah.
He's the one. Hey, if you can get any interest in this subject to a newbie, you've done your job. Okay. I have to ask, who's the pooch on the couch behind you?
You know, my mom passed away in August. She had Alzheimer's, and the very last thing she asked me to do was take care of her dog. So I've got her dog, and I took care of her, helped take care of her for 6 years. And I had a lot of help. So I don't get angel halos for that one. But so now I've got the little puppy. He'll probably pop up in my lap at some point.
That's awesome. We love it when that happens. Well, God bless you, and my condolences. And I saw Nick Pope as well in the thing there, and he sadly passed away not too long ago.
Yeah. Nobody saw that coming. And this might be, his last real appearance in a film. But since we brought up Nick, I just want to say, in fact, this segues into what you were going to ask me about how I got into the field.
Yeah.
So I can cover what I have to say about Nick Pope in that if you want me to go there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that works for me.
Mm-hmm.
So all my life I've been a seeker and an armchair aficionado of the paranormal. And when I started my own video production company, I was still interested in this stuff. And I was working, and I had a studio in Florida. I was getting hired. Discovery Channel comes to town. You get to go shoot in a hurricane. It's all kind of fun stuff like that. But I moved to Sedona for a bunch of weird synchronistic things happened that I ended up in Sedona. And that's when I met Stephen Bassett. And when he found out that I had a video production company and I could do live streaming, he hired me to start doing his stuff. So for me, that was like a dream come true. And I remembered back in the day, before I got into the field like I am now, there were two people that really influenced me that stood out. And one of them was Nick Pope. And the reason was because, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when he was still actively working for the Ministry of Defense, he used to write a column for UFO magazine. And there was a picture of him, like a pencil sketch drawing, and he would write, to the UFO community. And I remember back then just thinking, I'm getting goosebumps. I remember back then just thinking how cool it was that we had a guy who was actively in the defense structure that was willing to talk to us like this is a serious subject. And so I really admired Nick Pope. And
that was a while
the other
back.
one was Stanton Friedman. And the reason that I admired Stanton is because here's a guy who's a bona fide physicist, a nuclear physicist, talking to us about this like it's a serious topic. And he brought so much credibility to the field. And so these two people, in my early formative years, even before I got into video production, were standouts for me. They were the ones that I enjoyed watching on TV and all that. And so, here we are in 2007 or 6, 7, or 8, somewhere in that range. And here I am. I'm in Washington, D.C. Steve Bassett's putting on his X conference. I've got my whole production company there. We're live streaming it to the world. And all of a sudden, I'm hanging out with these guys. I'm backstage. Wow, there's Richard Dolan. There's Nick Pope. There's Stanton Friedman. There's George Knapp. Oh, my goodness. And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. It was like the wannabe, the got to be. and I made friends with these people, and I interviewed them, and I made films. And I realized very, very early in producing that first conference how dedicated these people were and how much of an uphill battle we all have trying to do something about the biggest deception that's ever been perpetrated on humanity. And so I kind of decided that there's worse things I could have done with my career. And since then, I've been doing nature, reality, life after death, and the UAP question. I do productions centered around those three questions primarily. But yeah, Nick Pope was one of the earliest people that inspired me. And from the time he did the first interview, he never, ever refused to do an interview with me. I remember I had him and Charles Halt when Charles Halt wrote that book about about Rendlesham. Well, I got the two of them together on my set, and I've never published the interview. I guess I probably should, but I really put Nick on the spot. I'm like, you're obviously a highly trained government official who knows exactly how to talk to the media. And he just went sheepish white. I'd give him a hard time over time. Like, Nick, if you can tell me if you have to kill me, it's okay. I understand. But, it's like, he never said no to an interview. I interviewed him probably 6 or 7 times. We drank together. I miss him terribly. And, I don't want anybody thinking that I'm trying to capitalize on him in any way. The film, was already pretty much done even before we heard about what was happening. And, so he's in the film. I can't say anything about it. And, much respect to Nick for sure.
Yeah. God bless him. We know a lady in England, Bridget Barclay, who was a former guest on the show, a contactee. He helped her immensely. They became very good friends. He's a good guy. He's like everyone in this field, I think, does it out of, not for money or fame. I mean, there's certainly some who do that in this field, but most are not going to get rich doing this. And you might.
I'll tell you something. I hear stuff occasionally. People will go, "Oh, you're making a movie and you're going to charge money for it." Well, it costs a lot of money to make. But the first movie that I made, Accidental Truth, the distributor went bankrupt before they ever paid me any of my royalties, and I lost $250,000 in unpaid money. And like a fool, I just well, what are you going to do next, Ron? Well, I'm going to make a sequel. It's not about money to any of us. It's like that we all could have chosen career paths that would be far more lucrative than making UFO films or doing podcasts or any of these kinds of things. We do it because we care, and the fact that that we have to monetize it in some way, it doesn't take away from the fact that there's a lot of other things we could be doing if we cared about money.
Yeah, well, we did have James Fox on the show, and he kind of echoes that. He had a hard time getting his stuff out, and I'm wondering, with you, did you?
It was the same thing. We all had the same distributor. It was 1099, and basically Stephen Greer, myself, Carolyn Corey, Darcy Weir, the Cousins brothers, James Fox, and even Jeremy Corbell. We were all under the same wing of distributors, and getting this distributor to pick your films and go with you was a big deal. And it was a great company for a minute. But then it got bought by another company who was run by an alleged bankruptcy artist. He just siphoned off all the money until the company hit a brick wall and had to file bankruptcy. And everybody lost. A lot of people lost their films because the courts treated the distribution rights to the film as an asset. And so you made your movie, but somebody else owns the rights to distribute it, and that person filed bankruptcy, and now somebody else comes in and buys the rights to distribute your film for pennies on the dollar and owes you nothing ever. And that's what happened to a lot of people.
Wow.
That's a terrible lesson to learn. You know that?
It was millions and millions of dollars. Every one of us UFO filmmakers lost it.
I hope you all figured out how to go forward without happening to you ever again.
Yeah, I luckily was able. I hired good attorneys, and I got my film back and went to a different distributor and have been doing okay with it. But yeah, it was a heck of a blow. I mean, I worked on that thing for a really long time, and to have that happen.
It seems to me like, your property should be only rentable, not ownable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a shady business. And unfortunately, you don't really understand how shady it is until you reread the contract after they've done terrible things to you, and you realize that they put it in the contract that they could do it. So at the end of the day, buyer beware, filmmaker beware.
I also see something else about this. This pushed you to do what you're doing right now, and it might have been the right type of catalyst. It's like we always learn a lot in life, and then we're somehow prepared to walk into something that's going to explode and go global. I have a feeling that's what you've done. You've gone through all of this only to come out with this one, and it's everything that happened before has just pushed you to do it this way now. We make choices, and I think that's a good thing. I get
it's
that way,
It was certainly an eye opener, but at the end of the day, we're all going to do what we're compelled to do. And I only bring up that whole story is because people that say that we're doing it for money don't understand the sacrifices all of us make. When you look back at some of the heroes of our field, the Roger Lear, Stanton Friedman, the list goes on and on and on. Jim Mars. And I'm sorry, I'm not naming them all, but none of these people really prospered from this work in any significant way.
Right.
They all either had to do something else, or they literally left this earth with very little.
Yeah, Donald Kehoe, he was an absolute pioneer. He suffered badly. Physicist James McDonald, J. Allen Hynek, he had a difficult time of it as well. God bless him. You got his son in the movie, Paul Hynek.
Yeah, Paul and I have become very good friends.
He's a riot. He's an absolute funny guy. We met him at a UFO con. So so I'm not sure how to start talking about this film because there's so much to it.
Yeah.
But
how did you choose the people that are in the film? That's what I want to know. What was your criteria for what you were aiming for? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, so for this version of the film, the new version, which is the sequel, and that was the wrong poster. It was originally more UFO Revelations, but it eventually changed to Beyond UFO Disclosure. I wanted to dig deeper into the subject and start opening up the more questions and answers. And I was already following the political process in Washington and having, some luck going in there, and actually as one person and with MUFON making a difference. I mean, we did things that we didn't talk about at the time. We had over 300 meetings with sitting members of Congress and their staffs. I briefed Tim Burchett on the UFO community's point of view and actually filmed it and put it in the movie, because I wanted people to know that, the people from our community have gone to Washington and sat in rooms with these people and told them the things that nobody from the military or from the intel community is going to tell them, because they're not cleared, and they're not going to tell them anyway. So we're able to talk about the reverse engineering programs and where they were and why this whole thing is one big lie. And so I made sure that not only did I tell members of Congress that this stuff was going on, in case nobody else was, but I also filmed it. so we could prove to the world that we went out there and made a difference in DC. And then, there's some other just amazing things that you're going to learn in the film about what we did in Washington, DC, including texting questions to the Congress people as they were asking them in real time and getting very important information to come out by accident. It's a true accidental truth in the movie. But then we also realized that Washington, D.C. is only going to get us so far. We are, in my opinion, we're dealing with a preordained narrative, and that's what we're going to get. And I've been right in my predictions. I predicted that the first thing that they would say was going to be, they're going to admit that they found some kind of life on Mars, evidence of life on Mars. We got that last year. The next thing is going to be, everybody right now is waiting for this big UFO disclosure. Here's what it's going to be. And, I might have to live this down later, but it's going to be, they're going to release a few videos. They're going to come out and say, yeah, this is some pretty weird stuff. We don't know what it is. Maybe we can all figure it out together, humanity. And that's going to be that. And are we going to get people that think that, Donald Trump is going to show up at a podium with pictures from Roswell? Ain't going to happen.
No.
They're going to continue to say it.
I want the craft. That, to me, that's the end game. And
I know, right? Park it on the White House lawn next to the Teslas, and let's just get this over with. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just not going to happen.
Would you like to hear what an ET says about this?
Pardon me?
Would you like to hear a direct quote from an ET about this situation?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Dolly has a direct contact, and this is Talata.
Yeah, this is directly quoted to me. I had to sit there and get it exactly right before I could print it. Okay.
When did it come through?
It came through last year. I've had it all over my Facebook for a year. I talk about it incessantly. Okay. Disclosure: from those in authority over humanity will always tactically use plausible deniability. Their agenda supersedes all humanity. Our reality is their construct. It is their power and its weaponization which impugns all explanation to humanity. Therefore, learn all that is learnable. Understand each of us must use our abilities to discern our position in this paradigm. Wisdom is your freedom from their tyranny. Talata.
I don't hear anything there that I disagree with. I think that it's right on. These people cannot tell us the truth. That's the problem.
Correct.
They
they're
simply
not really
can't.
in power. That's the problem.
So yeah,
it's going to usurp their power. It's going to, if there's a box that we can put in our garage, it's going to power our house and charge our car. There goes the entire enslavement structure of this planet. And the people sitting at the top of the food chain are the same ones that are safeguarding this information. And above them could be, other non-human intelligence that have their own agendas in how things are run on this planet. So it's a quagmire for them, because they understand that they can't keep this entire secret a secret for too much longer, because there's going to be irrefutable evidence. And if they're on the wrong side of that, then they just get caught with their pants down, so to speak. So they have to tell us something, but they're going to tell us as little as possible.
Yeah. I think that's exactly one of the driving forces behind disclosures. There is a mountain of evidence at this point. And it is pretty much irrefutable if you really dig into it. But here's my question. There's the folks behind the cover-up, which aren't necessarily the people in Congress. right?
No, the people in Congress are not part of this. They're not covering this up. I can elaborate on that a little further if you want, but it's not our front facing people. The people that are managing this information, we will never know their names. We'll never know who they were. The ones that originated from the time the cover up started, the modern era in the late 30s when craft began to appear and be documented. These guys are so deep into government and industry compartmentalized black programs, and there's very few of them actually left. That's the other thing that's really scary about this, you guys, is that the people who knew the whole picture back when the cover up was designed, it's been so compartmentalized and so spread out that there's very few people still that know everything. They've all died off and evidence has been destroyed. And that's another reason we'll never get the whole story, is because there's nobody here left to tell it.
Well, having talked to so many members of Congress and so forth, how well do you think that they've been brought up to speed on what is actually going on here? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Are they?
So when this first started, back in 2017, when we got all the Elizondo, Lou popped out, and Chris Mellon, and the 3 videos and stuff, and Congress started paying attention, there's guys like Tim Burchett and others who, they're just like you and me. They're just regular people. And ever since they were a kid, they were intrigued by what the truth was. And so they decided to try to find out. Well, they have largely been blockaded, snowballed, and BS'd for almost the last 10 years. We're finally getting to a point where some of them have been taken into a room and said, look, here's what we can tell you. But then they come out of that room and they're not telling. And so they've inadvertently become part of the problem. I have this thing I call men in a box. And basically, once you've been clued into this stuff, your entire life changes and you become a slave to your secrets. And that's what happens. It happens to filmmakers. It happens to members of Congress. I've sat in a lot of rooms where the preface of the conversation was, look, I could tell you some stuff, but you can't share it. And my answer to that every single time is, I do not want to carry the burden of your secret. I'm a filmmaker. I work for an organization that is obligated to the public. If you don't want it in my next movie, don't tell me. And unfortunately, almost everybody gets caught up and they do just the opposite. They say, oh yeah, because their personal curiosity and they have to know. And
you
then
need more experiencers. I'm telling you, you're right. You said that earlier to me, and I'm just going to slam you with it. You absolutely need experiencers who know what the hell they're talking about, who have that. Okay, because they're not going to tell you. And I find that amusing, the way you put it about all these people being sucked into the system and not able to tell you anything. It's like a mafia. We bring them in so he can't talk anymore. That's exactly what they do.
That's what's happened to a lot of people in Congress, and they're all good-hearted people that really, I'm not going to debate that, but the ones that I've met, and that's a lot. That's Andre Carson. That's Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. These are people that I've sat down and had meetings with. Eric Burleson, Andre Carson, people that I've actually had taken time to tell them what I want them to know. And there's more, but I don't fault these people. But here's something that will clear this up. Remember at the very beginning, Marco Rubio, back when we had our first hearing, when Moultrie and Bray from the Defense Department came out and basically said they didn't know anything about anything. Marco Rubio was very vocal right up until that moment. I mean, he was all over it. And then after that hearing, they all went into closed session, and Marco Rubio came out. There's video of this. He just walks out and walks away. And ever since then, he quit talking about it.
Yeah, he'll never.
And he quit being this big advocate for disclosure.
Yeah,
and I think the reason that happened is because he was told some things that made him understand why this secret needed to be kept. And he wasn't going to go out and fight for disclosure anymore because he was on board with, not disclosing. And then we have the movie. He got interviewed about it. and I'm sorry to be so long-winded, Dolly. I'll be quiet.
No, I'm listening. I'm truly interested in every word you say. Go.
He had the movie, Age of Disclosure, that Dan Farah put out, and where he talks about this stuff. But he did an interview about it afterwards, and he said things like, well, it was a movie, and they did creative things with the editing, and they're going to do whatever they have to do to sell films. I mean, he basically threw the movie and his testimony in the movie under the bus. So what happened to Marco Rubio is the same thing that happens to most of them. They get to the point where not only do they understand that the secret needs to be kept, they're agreeing to be a part of the process that has been mapped out by the powers that be, which will never result in the full truth. And so
burning question. I'm going to stop you. What do you think the reason that they're so quiet is? Have you considered what that might be?
Well, when you get into different cosmologies and different spiritual teachings, and you get into the fact that some of these stories might be true, different alien races with different agendas, our complete spiritual
that's what they want you to believe. That's misinformation and disinformation.
Well, I know, but these are reasons why these are all things that have to be addressed in the conversation. And so when you look at what they've done to hide this over time, when you look at the technology that they're hiding, when you look at all the legalities that are involved, it's not as simple as, hey, there's aliens. What if you gave some technology to Lockheed Martin, you didn't give it to Grumman? Lockheed Martin patented it and made a ton of money. Unfortunately, in the way government contracts work, that violates a whole lot of laws. And so now you've got to go in and dig that all up, and there's endless litigation. There's all kinds of reasons why they can't just come out and tell us the whole thing, from societal disruption to the truth actually being a little more than people can stomach, and for the reason that there's an accountability problem that they're going to face.
I think that's the main one, because to say that we can't handle the truth and they can seems a bit disingenuous to me.
Well, there's a reason for that too.
Let's hear what Dolly has to say.
Problem with this, okay? First of all, this is all smoke and mirrors. Lawyers were brought into the situation heavily from the very beginning of this, all the way back into the 1920s, going into the 30s, to ferret out ways to keep you from understanding that a military-industrial complex exists. Eisenhower warned y'all about it, and you're not going to do a listening, okay? It is now global. It has taken over everything. It is global, and what you don't understand is their agenda literally points to survival for their reasons only. We're here as worker bees to give them what they want, and they're going to survive something really, really big that's coming at this entire planet. And there is proof for that. There is actual scientific proof. They got NASA scientists in on it. They've got astronomers on it, astrophysicists. It's all over the place. And these people they can't discredit them, because what they say is so true. The consequences of disagreeing with them will point directly to the reason that they're not talking. That's their cachet against the governments ending their truth to you all. Okay.
Well, I mean, you kind of what you're saying in a lot of ways correlates with what I'm saying, that there are truths about this that are too terrible to be told. Planet Earth is not living on the surface of planet Earth is not a guarantee of a future. It's a guarantee of destruction at some point. It's only a matter of time until something affects this planet in an extinction level event, be it a passing asteroid,
have been warning about
Planet
that.
X coming by.
So deep in it, they've known it for over 80 years. That's the problem.
And that's why they're building all these bunkers and underground bases and everything else.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily that.
Then you let on it first. It is incredible to me that they think that humanity cannot handle the truth. And a lot of our rhetoric and what we say and how we say it is used, it's implanted into your thinking. You use some terminology that I know is ground into everybody from multiple sources so that you use their terminology against the situation. And it's almost an infuriation to watch it happen. First of all, I'll give you number one. Number one, they are not non-human intelligence. That is not who ET are. period, the end. We are related to them. We have their DNA, and they have known about us for eons. Okay.
Yep. That is the message a lot of contactees get. We are you, you are us, we are one.
Some of us are taught exactly how that happened. Some of us know these things, okay, and can prove what we say. You go to any geneticist on this planet and they will tell you that you're related to everything on this bloody planet that has life. Your DNA includes grass, birds, dogs, cats, bonobos, bananas, you name it. Your DNA holds all the same DNA they do. You're just running around with it, and it's in a file.
I think it's intentionally divisive in a way, because I think the government is pushing a fear-based narrative. ETs are harmful and dangerous, which I don't buy for a second as a researcher.
I don't think the government's pushing that narrative. I haven't seen anything official coming out of the government that says that. This dark side to disclosure is realizing that our entire reality is not what we think it is. And Dolly, I certainly believe that you're having communication with something, but there are not this whole situation throughout the galaxy, throughout time, and throughout multidimensionality, and the existence of multiple types of life forms that are non-human intelligence that are part of our universe and part of our reality. It's not just one race of extraterrestrials that are telling us this. There's multiple types of life, and so when people are in communication with different aspects of that, and I find that to be perfectly acceptable, but to say that the information that you're getting and the source of that information is the only source of anything, it just puts us all in the same block of people
Dolly,
that are arguing about angels, demons, and ghosts. And so I'm not sure that I find it super helpful to say this is who they are, this is what they say, everything that I'm receiving is what's correct, and everybody else is full of it, because we live in a reality that is objective.
People go find information for themselves. Okay, I lead the way. Scientifically speaking, there is only one race on this planet. It is the human race. We're ethnic. That's it. You are not white, the white race. You are not the black race. You're not the Chinese race. You are human.
Well, again, that depends on how you're going to define human. It was Neanderthal human? No, Neanderthal was Neanderthal. We have different delegations for different levels of humanity. So if we want to bump everything in from a chimpanzee to us and say we're all human because we share similar DNA, you could do that. But there's been all kinds of different varieties of humans that have lived on this planet, and they're not all Homo sapien sapien. So you can lump everything in and say, well, we're all humans, and there's nothing wrong with that statement, except for the fact
who are
that
intelligent and can communicate. And when you say non-human intelligence, that creeps me, because ET are human as well. We have their DNA. They are our progenitors.
Hey, but if you're a tall white, you're not a human. You might share human characteristics, but you're not a Homo sapien sapien. You are a different variety of human. You could say that, but you can't say we're all the same, because we're not.
I would say that would be, in my assessment.
And you can't discount other types of life. There are. Well, I mean, when you're saying that these things are coming in from and we're all human. Well, there are disembodied beings that exist within this simulation.
Outside this dimension,
and they're not human.
Beings.
So,
I
just think we need to have a broader understanding, and that clinging to and insisting on very specific interpretations of any of this does not serve understanding. It only serves to reinforce differences that people have. And so I go on these shows where people are, you'll have the Christians that say this is angels and demons and that's it. Well, guess what? I say, hey, you know what? There's interpretations that go back and filters that this stuff is seen through. And if you want to say that they're angels and demons according to your belief system, there's nothing wrong with that. You can say that. There's a lot of different things at play, but disembodied beings are not human. they're disembodied beings that have a whole different ability to navigate through a whole lot of different.
It's called
levels of
disembodied
reality.
consciousness.
Right.
Let's be real about this. It's called disembodied consciousness. If you're not in the body, you're an entity outside the third dimension. You're now walking around all the way through everything. So it's not, I don't call it disembodied. If you're not in your body, you're indwelling your body right now. Okay. And you're conscious, you have consciousness. And when you leave this body, you're not disembodied. You have just left the body. You're still consciousness. And that's what
Look, here's what I think. And you can tell me if you think that it's wrong.
Okay.
Three things. First, in order to understand the theory here, you have to accept two things. The first thing is that consciousness is fundamental, that everything springs forth from consciousness. Physical reality is an illusion. We're living in, for all intents and purposes, a very advanced, very complex simulation.
Yeah.
No, that's the wrong choice. Wrong choice. You're living.
But it's not the wrong choice. I could sit here and argue the physics with you. The fact of the matter is,
it's not an illusion. You're in a physical body. You're indwelling in it.
That is if consciousness is the only fundamental force, then everything physical arises from consciousness. Therefore, what all of the ancient religions are teaching us about the Maya, about the grand illusion, about the even the Muslims say that this world is an illusion. If you look at modern physics, it tells us that what we perceive as matter is not really matter. It's energy vibrating at certain frequencies. The universe is governed by mathematical algorithms.
I want you to tell me it's an illusion.
That's an illusionary nature of matter and a program that it is working.
Hold on a second, Telly. Hold on.
Look, here,
we can't talk over each other.
Talk about illusion. The term of illusion means it doesn't exist. Okay, it's not reality. I will give you instant reality. Stick your hand on the table, take a hammer and slam your hand with it. That's reality.
That's because that's how the laws of physics function within the simulation. Look, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue the fundamentals of simulation theory. Obviously, we have different viewpoints on that, and that's okay. But in order to understand what we're seeing with different life forms, if you can't accept those two things and get past those two things, then it's a complete dead stop. But if you can understand that there is an illusionary simulated nature to our reality, and that is being proven more and more by science, then
science not proven that. That's
consciousness is fundamental. Our reality is something that we are creating out
this
of
body is not goggles that you put on your consciousness to walk around here. Okay, you're a living, breathing entity indwelled by your own
inside a simulation where you become a living, breathing
your
entity.
body is simulation.
We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Okay, and the mechanism by which we have the human experience is we come into this. We come into these realities, these worlds that we are able to create, manifesting from conscious energy. And we come here for whatever reason we come here for. Maybe it's to learn, maybe it's to have adventures. That's debatable all the way to the end.
Thank you, Aussie. Yeah.
But what I think we're seeing here is that we have inside this reality, we have beings that the way they enter it and the way they leave it is making a flesh and blood commitment like we have made to our bodies to come and live a lifetime within here. And anything that comes and manifests in flesh and blood is one of these types of life. It's one of the ways to navigate into the simulation. You're born, you live, you die. You could be a gray alien. Well, not necessarily gray aliens, because that's a whole other thing, but you could be a Palladian, you could be a whale, you could be a dolphin. The thing that you have in common is that you originated from consciousness and you embodied in this reality to have your experience.
In this reality. Thank you for using the correct terminology. Yes, this is reality.
I think that's a lot of the problems here is the terminology that's being
well,
used.
see, one of the things I point out of my movie is that we don't have the vocabulary yet to ask the right questions and have the right discussions. There are things that we are trying to puzzle out that we just don't understand. But moving on, we have another type of being that is able to come into this reality without having to make that flesh and blood commitment. It is able to come from consciousness into the simulation and navigate it in completely different ways. Perhaps it's not subject to time. Perhaps it's not subject to the laws of physics. Perhaps it's a ghost. Perhaps it's a voice that you hear in your head. Perhaps it's a being that you see. Perhaps all of these disembodied, for lack of a better word, beings that we have encountered throughout history are another type of conscious or originated life that does not have to obey the same rules within this reality that we do, having been committed to flesh and blood.
Okay,
while we're here.
Let me ask you a question then. Do you believe that ET is all consciousness and not physical?
I think that all physical arises from consciousness. That's the whole point. When you say consciousness is fundamental, those three words say that nothing else besides consciousness exists. Everything that exists above consciousness rises from consciousness.
So we have a universe, and we all live in the third dimension. We're sliding into the fourth dimension slightly, but we're basically in the third dimension. And we know that it's gravity heavy and that all our protons are so densely packed, we see ourselves as solid objects.
Yeah, because that's how the program is written.
Okay, let me finish. There are beings all over this universe that are alive as we are in the third dimension, who have physical bodies and live physical lives. And every last one of them are as conscious as we are.
Right.
And have intelligence. And we all pretty much come from the same place. What ET has taught me is that we are all the same thing. We are all one with them. We're you, you're us, we're all one.
I know, but that doesn't mean that we're all human. I don't know what your definition of human. My definition of human is a certain set of DNA that creates a species that is defined currently by science as Homo sapiens sapien. A tall gray, a tall white, or a Palladian is not a human. Now you can say that we're all connected. I agree with you.
Higher in understanding for a second, all right? When I explain to you that you have all the DNA of everything on this planet in you that's alive, you do. Your DNA encompasses all of it. So does theirs. We are human beings.
It's not the same DNA.
Conscious and sentient.
Well, we don't know that, do we?
Themselves human, just like us.
Nothing scientifically
We're just
proven.
ethnically different. That's what they taught me. We are all ethnically different from one another, but we are all human. Humanity is a term that they use, and they taught it to us to encompass everybody and everyone as one. And for some stupid reason, for the last 12,000 years, people have totally lost the point. They've totally changed the meaning of so many important things. And one of them is that we're all one, all of us, including them. They're no different from us. They look different.
Look, I agree with the oneness theory, but when you say that we're all human, you're misspeaking. But anyway, look, the room doesn't want to hear this anymore. Let's just move on.
But I will say that there are ETs out there that look just like us.
Yeah.
That raises all kinds of implications. And coming from a researcher who has interviewed a lot of contactees who have talked to Greys, the Greys have told them that we do share the same DNA. And we do see interbreeding going on. So there's a lot of questions still that need to be answered.
No, but the Greys might have DNA in common with humans, but it doesn't make them human. That's the whole point that I'm making, is you're saying that everything is human. It's not.
What if you've got somebody who claims that they've got gray DNA in their body and they're human from here, or tall white?
Yeah.
In other words, you can't breed with something that you don't have genetic compatibility with and make another. You can't. It's like we have plenty of things on this planet that show us that over hybridization, in other words, a horse and a donkey, a horse and a
mule.
Thank you. A mule is a non able to create life again now. It's so hybrid that it can't create life at all. It's now sterile. And every time you put two animals that are not compatible together, that's what you're going to get if they're close enough in genetics to breed together and create a young, and it still comes up sterile. But we're not breeding with those and coming up with sterile humans. We're coming up with hybridized people here.
Well, it would appear that there needs to be some kind of technological facilitator for that to happen. We're not being taken on spaceships and having intercourse with a human type species, and then babies are made. It's being done in an artificial manner from all of the testimony I've seen. But at any rate,
I'm not sure I would agree with that entirely. Yeah, some is natural, absolutely. But at any rate, let's not over belabor that point. You made a comment that I thought was really interesting, like Congress isn't ready for contactees.
I've done this. I've sat in these rooms and I've tried to get the experiencer case to be something that gets brought up. And it's like, look, there's engagement with at this point in time, I've got to watch every word I say. So I'm not particularly enjoying this interview. So the words to the members of Congress are that they're willing to accept the fact that there's something we can't explain. They're willing to accept the fact that there could be extraterrestrials. They're willing to accept the fact that there could be reverse engineering programs. But as soon as you get to the point of talking about things like hybridization, alien abduction, experiencers having psychological events where they are being contacted by these beings, their eyes glaze over. And they're just not ready for that yet. But they're
not ready. They know it's true. That's the problem. I can tell you things.
They're not ready to bring it. They're not ready to bring it into the mainstream conversation. They might know it's true, but you have to understand where these people sit. They can believe a lot of things. They can be told a lot of things.
A hard place.
They have to work within this very, very strange system that none of us really understand.
I know, and they're not more important than humanity. They're sitting on a hill where they're making all the decisions for everybody with what they know is coming, and most of humanity does not know. And if they did know, if they knew that they were the big pain in the booty house, that they were the liars, and they want to know how far the lies go back and how tragically serious this whole situation really is, everybody on this planet would turn on them in a New York second.
Well, if you're talking about members of Congress, I've had intimate conversations.
I'm talking about the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, the deeper levels of that complex are where the secrets are housed, and these are people that unfortunately psychopathic mentalities rise to power, and that's we're living in a situation where a lot of that has happened.
Yeah.
So I'd like to bring up some of the people that are in your film, and maybe you could comment on what you learned from them. How does that sound?
Save us, Preston.
So here we have Representative Eric Burleson. What did you learn from him, and how is it talking to him, and what's his whole stance on the phenomenon?
Well, Eric's interesting. He in the film, you'll find out that he was the one that we were texting him questions to ask Lou Elizondo during the hearing, and he asked them, and it led to some of the biggest revelations of the hearing, which I thought was incredibly cool. I mean, how go into a hearing and actually being able to get in the room, that was cool, but actually having live communication with the congressman asking the questions and getting Lou Elizondo to spill the beans about Lockheed Martin and the materials transfer, as I say in the film, that was absolutely priceless. And people are like, yeah, that didn't happen. You didn't do that. And we're like, yeah, we did. And we documented it. Eric Burleson still to this day is saying, I'm from the show me state. You're going to have to show me. This is the guy that has David Grush working for him. I know some of the people that have been in and out of his office. If he hasn't seen enough to be convinced, there's something wrong. So as long as he keeps saying, I haven't seen anything that proves this to me, he's playing a very interesting skeptic.
Which I can kind of understand. This is a subject that's I think very difficult to push into the mainstream, because the folks behind the cover-up have worked very hard to delegitimize it, and we're still fighting that.
Yeah, people need to wake up to how many military contractors there really are, and how in-depth it really is. A military contractor isn't just a private a company that does jobs for the military, okay, or works for the military. Once if you're a private contractor and you go into military service as a contractor, okay, you're sucked into their rules, their regulations, and everything, and you become a part of a network of military contractors, and they're all talking to one another because the military, the DOD, is running the show. They don't own their assets. The government does. That's the contract. They get profits from it, but they don't own the assets. The government does. So it's the government broadcasting out, throwing nets, capturing up people who can do the things that they can't do for themselves, and then holding on to them like slaves, just like we are. And it's serious. And then everybody's under NDAs, and nobody can talk because, believe me, you'll die if you talk. And we have proof of that lately, don't we? It is serious stuff. And just so you know, my father was in the military industrial complex, and I lived it. I know what this is all about, and I know how it operates, and it's not fun anymore. And that's why I'm talking as vehemently as I am, because while you all are doing smoke and mirrors in Hollywood and Congress, the real people who should be talking won't talk to you. They're not going to. And the only people who can talk to you are real, bona fide, honest to God experiencers with absolute knowledge and can prove what that knowledge is. That's where y'all need to start looking. Quit looking to the government.
You know, look, I think that's great. I think you make a really good point, but nobody wants to listen to an experiencer with a chip on their shoulder. So at the end of the day, it's not bringing anger and confrontation to the conversation is not going to earn experiencers any points. All you're going to do is earn the tinfoil hat moniker, and people are going to dismiss you. So if you want to get out there and say, and put your story forth, get rid of the anger, get rid of the malice, and state your case. You know, you just said this whole thing about government owning stuff. The fact of the matter is Lockheed Martin owns the rights to make parts for the F-35. The government doesn't even own the thing they paid for. There's all kinds of things going on. I agree with you about the military industrial complex completely. I agree with you that the compartmentalization and that the truth about a lot of this is buried inside industry that has no accountability. I agree with you that at this point they are actually executing their own agenda, and we don't even know if they care about us at all. I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying, but at the end of the day, angrily putting it forth is not going to get people to listen. It just turns people off. And so when experiencers
are a very tough road.
Stories,
I'm not angry. I am not angry. What you don't know about me is
I'd hate to hear you when you are angry. Let's move on to some more conversations about people.
All right. Well, I want to make one more statement to you, and then I'm going to let Preston do all the rest of the talking. Okay. What I'm coming out for, what I came out for, the reason that I speak about this is that you all have bigger problems than what goes on in Washington. You all have giant, enormous issues before you. And if you don't start paying attention to what's really going on, they're going to make sure that you are expendable. That's all. And I've laid it out in lavender, and trust me, if you knew who I was and you heard what I've been saying all this time, you're the first person that I'm challenging outright. Period.
I'm the wrong person to be challenging. I'm sorry.
No, you make movies about it.
You haven't even seen my movie. You haven't even seen my first film. You haven't seen my second film. You know nothing about who I am, except I'm somebody that came into your sphere less than an hour ago, but you've got it all figured out. You don't even have the right to say the things you're saying to me.
I do.
Okay, let's stop you guys. It's completely all right to have a difference of opinion, but you're here on to talk about your film, so let's do that. And I want to bring on Camille James Harmon, who I know actually. I've met her a few times. We've spoken when I was in LA, and I know she's an experiencer. So I'm really happy to see you featuring some experiencers in your documentary. And we all play a role here, and I think experiencers have a hard time getting their story out. So what can you tell us about Camille's story?
Well, you know, Camille has her own story about experiencer phenomena from a very early age, and she has a voice in the film from that standpoint. And the whole last part of the film addresses all of these issues and concerns, and really kind of turns up the volume for the experiencers. I would say 50% of the people in this film are experiencers of some kind, or people studying the phenomenon. So Camille is great. She anchors, she kind of covers the difference between credibility in the eyes of the general public of the experiencer and her ability to capture that and deliver it. Her viewpoint on these topics is a real plus in the film.
Yeah, she's got a very interesting story for sure. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm interested on your opinion on Colonel John Alexander. I met him too. He's deep in the industrial complex, in my opinion.
Colonel John Alexander is the real guy that could tell you, but he'd have to kill you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's the real deal. It was him that was portrayed in that movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats. He was involved in programs like the SRI stuff at Stanford. He was involved in all kinds of deep research at Lawrence Livermore Labs and at what's the other one? At any rate, this guy was involved in a lot of stuff that was very, very deep and dark back in the day. And I've interviewed him several times. I've been to his house. He's one of these guys that holds the answers that he's not sharing. He actually wrote his dissertation in the study of death and earned the nickname Dr. Death. And was one of the founders of the International Association for Near-Death Studies as well. And so his history in this field, he was one of the first. He was with Robert Bigelow when Bigelow bought Skinwalker Ranch. This guy is a man of many faces, and what John Alexander tells us is explained in the things that he will not say. I could just say that.
All right. And Ross Coulthart, of course, is now basically a superstar in this field, journalist. He's, I think, we like I said earlier, we all play a role. Everyone who enters this field, I give huge kudos to them because you will probably at some point get attacked. But he's doing good work, I think, trying to get the word out on this subject. So I'm glad to see him in this film. What do you think about what he's doing? And
well, Ross comes in the film and tells us the inside story about how David Grush went from his initial emergence to actually going into the public arena. And it was him who broke the story on television. And we also have Ralph Blumenthal telling the story about how David Grush broke in print. It's a very compelling story that illuminates how hard it is for whistleblowers to do anything. Although I don't really consider David a whistleblower, but he still had a rough time. And then later on in the film, Ross goes into the whole consciousness aspect and how he is coming to these conclusions, that all of this stems forth from consciousness. And it's really interesting to see a reporter with his pedigree and his history to watch him evolve as he learns more and more about the subject.
Yeah, like George Knapp was brought in. Jaime Maussan, he was a journalist. I think once you're in this field, there's no getting out. You're a member.
Well, I will say that I've been there's some stuff that I put together about these missing scientists that I have shared with Ross, and he recently came out and said he doesn't think there's any connection. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of pause, because I think the answer is there's no connection. There's some connection. The answer is somewhere in between. But to say that these scientists missing and killed is all a big coincidence, there's too many overlaps in their research and discoveries that lead me to still think that that's not quite correct. So yeah, I hope Ross reevaluates it a little bit before he just writes the whole thing off, which he's doing right now.
And remember, we're hearing about 12. There's probably 100 that we don't know about.
There's 22 actually. There's some that you don't know about, that a lot of people who do know about it won't talk about it.
And why would they?
Definite connection. There's 1,000 different disciplines that a lot of these scientists are involved in. And if they even make a move to act like they're going to come clean or act like they're going to go forth, one NASA scientist is involved in this as well. And it is sad to me that all they're trying to do is bring truth out, and they pay the consequences for that truth. And it's because if you don't act within your NDA, you're dead. And that's what
yeah. And you're right, Dolly. And now we have Arrow, right? And this is the government body that is supposed to be interviewing whistleblowers and protecting whistleblowers. And in my opinion, what they're really doing is collecting information. It's if you're somebody who can disrupt this narrative that they're trying to roll out, maybe you worked on a program, maybe you're a scientist that invented an alloy, and you are someone who could come out and say, no, the story they're telling you is a lie. If you've ever made any indication that you might be somebody who wants to be a whistleblower, maybe you had your attorney call Arrow, maybe you're talking to your friends, maybe you're making YouTube videos. If they identify you as a threat to the narrative and somebody who could actually have the determination to come out against the narrative, you're on a list. And,
already. Well, they watch you from the beginning of your NDA. I have NDAs. I can't talk about things. Preston knows this. He's asked me multiple times for information. I won't give it to him because if I do talk, I am dead. And just so you know, I am watched 24/7. There have been multiple.
We all are. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, there have been multiple attempts on my life, as a matter of fact. This is not a joke to me. I walk a fine line with what I say to people, and I'm sticking to as close to the truth as I can. I would go further and deeper if I could, but it would mean my extinction and my family's extinction, and I can't go there. And that's what they're all up against. You know,
every one of them. You're right.
Knows this. That's right.
All right. I want to bring up a question.
I call them men in a box, and you know, you're in the same position. You can't say what you know, and even if you did, even if you decided you're going to sacrifice everything after you've blown your I won't say blown your wad, but that's the best way to describe it. Once you've revealed everything, then it just gets attacked. You get impugned. You have no evidence or little evidence, and you're destroyed, and you've lost everything to do it. And that's what I call it. They're people in a box.
I believe that David Grush came this close. Okay. I think that he did try to come out. I wouldn't call him a whistleblower either. Okay. I think he was sanctioned to say some of the things that he did.
Lou Elizondo, you mean?
Yeah, Lou Elizondo.
No, Lou is an instrument of the new narrative. He's been taking orders from the day he rolled out, and he's been doing what he's told. If they tell him, hey, we want you to say that maybe you saw a flying saucer, he'll say, maybe I saw a flying saucer. If they say, hey, we want you to hold up a fake picture of a UFO at an event in Washington, D.C., he'll hold up a picture of a UFO. Yeah. He never stopped working, and he's doing what he's told.
They're in different parts of this equation, but trust me, they both have a lot in common where this is considered. And it's these people have, like, the things that I can tell you seem so phantasmagorical that it's hard for me to explain them through. Preston's took 6 years to vet me, okay? And I gave him everything I had, from family, friends, proof, evidence, all of it, okay? And 6 years before he would write one sentence about me. That's how long he vetted me. And I still walk on eggshells around everything. And I tell what I can, literally what I can, because there is an agenda.
And most contactees don't come forward, the vast majority of them. But I just want to give a shout out to the folks in the chat. If you have questions, put them in now, because we're running towards the end of the show here. Well, not quite, but we're getting there. And
the chat is lively. I have to admit, this is the most raucous interview I've ever done.
That's good. That'll bring in more viewers.
I think that's fine.
That's my motto. Challenge everybody, and then let everybody decide for themselves or research for themselves.
Okay, now here's a question I do want to bring up, because we've been talking about this. This one is aimed towards me, but it's actually, I think, applicable to both of you, all of us. Howie Odell is asking, Preston, are you worried or in concern that something can happen to you, as is happening to so many in ufology in the science world? I'm not worried. I know there's life after death, and I'm all in. Kill me, I'll reincarnate and come back and continue the good fight. I mean, I'm aware that there's dangers here. So I'm wondering, Ron, have you had any pushback? Anyone telling you no? Are you in any fear of spilling too many beans or anything along these lines?
I didn't used to be. You know what? Lou called me one time and said, watch your back. That was kind of freaky. But I always here's where I was, that there was a time back in the 40s and back in those days when people would get killed over this stuff. And there's rumors that they told the people of Roswell, it's a big desert. You're never going to talk about what you saw. And then I thought, well, the rules might have changed to the point where they're not really killing anybody anymore. There's rules you have to play by. Don't personally denigrate people. Like I did the whole Accidental Truth movie without denigrating a single person, even though they were all lying through their teeth and we proved it. We didn't trash them over it. that's a bit of a broad statement. But so I used to think that we were fairly safe as long as we played by a certain amount of rules. But now I'm realizing not only are we not safe, because it appears that the removal of human beings is happening again, but it also appears that many of us may have already committed the unforgivable crimes. So, we even if I said, hey, I'm not going to release my movie, or I'm not going to keep talking like I'm talking, I'm just going to stop, we may have all already done too much, and we may all be on a list, and that's frightening as heck. We live our lives. I don't know about you. I know I do. I'm the media relations director for MUFON. They're not infiltrated, but surveilled heavily.
At least,
and that just stands to reason. It's nothing.
There's got to be government agents in MUFON, because there has been in every APRO. We know what happened to them.
For sure.
Everybody.
I mean, MUFON's the biggest gatherer of UFO related information in the world. Any intel agency would tap into anything they can within MUFON just to glean our data. So there's nothing kind of crazy about that to say that. And with people that say it like it's really bad, it's just the way things work. If you have an organization like MUFON, the intelligence community is going to be paying attention. It's just the way it is. But so now I'm just like, I hope we haven't done too much already, because I'm not gonna stop at this point. And but I'm definitely aware that the rules might be changing of this game, and to become a lot more dangerous, and that's scary.
Well, the fact that your films are garnering awards means you are pressing buttons.
Somebody's listening
people.
to you.
Yeah, well, the new one, it's not even out yet, and it's already won 9 film festivals. It won 9 actual best documentaries, and then it's won a bunch of honorable mentions and a bunch of semifinalists. So it's up to, it's already getting some sort of attention.
Well,
it's my belief at the end of the day, no person on this planet should die stupid. That we all have the right, or
we deserve, absolutely,
to know what the truth really is.
Agreed.
And that means those who are seeking it out need to keep going until they find it, period. No matter what.
There's a lot of weird things that are entering the mix too. It's like all of a sudden this whole idea of the Gnostic teachings and archons and demiurges and things that just screw up the whole levels above Earth are coming into the equation, and people are paying attention to them. And somebody asked me, what do you think happens when you die? I used to think I had it pretty well figured out. I've interviewed everybody that's written a significant book about near-death studies, and I have a whole film about it in the works. But I'm starting to re-examine some of this stuff and look at some of these other alternative teachings and see, how I feel about their validity.
Yeah, try practicing astral projection, because you can absolutely do this yourself and know for sure.
Right.
I got very much involved in that, so it's a wonderful way to prove things to yourself.
I'm curious, do you believe that you have a psychic ability?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very psychic.
Okay. That's perfect. Okay. One of the things about being psychic is that you can prove truth to yourself with your ability. All you got to do is turn the volume up on it. And Preston's right. If you learn to OBE, go out of body, or even remote view, your ability to garner truth absolutely expands at that point. And you also begin to hear BS from people as they speak it. But you have to, and I say this to everybody about learning how to use your abilities. You need concrete confirmation of your ability. You can think you have abilities all day long, and you're on for 5 minutes and then you're on for 10, but you think you're on for 15. You need to learn to confirm your own abilities, and there's ways to do it.
We all have, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you get 100% all the time, and you're wide open, aware, then you just start operating as you should, but confirming that, because 9 times out of 10, I meet people who swear to me that, okay, I can do this, I can do that. And it's like, okay, well, let's confirm it. Let's put it to the test. Let's start keeping a track record of your abilities. And they go, oh, maybe I'm not doing so good. And then you start getting into, what are you doing to your body? What are you polluting yourself with? How are you living? How much Wi-Fi is around you all the time? Because all these things affect your ability to be psychic. And there's a whole thing about it, And
I'm glad you're starting to look into those areas, because I think that's as important as knowing that we're not alone in this universe. All right, I'm popping up.
Somebody in the chat said something about my cat, but it's not a cat. Come here, buddy. Come on. Your audience awaits. They want to see.
I'd love to see this.
This is my supervisor.
Is he a Bichon?
In line. Make sure that.
What's his name?
Mr. Puppy.
Okay.
He's got a lot of different names, but yeah, that's Mr. Puppy. He's like, dude, I prefer to sit off to the side. But anyway, yeah, it's not a cat. It's a dog.
How old is he?
He's about 9. Yeah.
Aww.
I've never had an encounter with an animal that's as smart as this guy. He's just really a trip.
Well, he's had 9 years.
And the last cohesive things my Alzheimer mom said was, "Please take care of my dog." And I think it's one most important thing she left me is a little guy. Yeah. He's a trip.
That's adorable.
Okay.
All right.
So
here's the
just
next...
wanted to show that you're not a cat. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay.
Here's the next question. Here's Matthew Modine, and the question is, Ron, how did you get Matthew Modine to narrate?
Yeah, that's a trip, isn't it? So I had Edward James Olmos, and at one time we were talking to Steven Tyler, who I was really somewhat that would have been cool. And then Eddie backed out. We were at contract signing, and his lawyer said, "You really want to get into this UFO stuff?" And even when he was doing Battlestar Galactica, he wasn't super into it. And a friend of mine was actually at a conference in Europe and was working with Matthew Modine. It was like a Comic-Con thing, and he knew that I was looking for a narrator, and he asked Matthew if he'd be interested. And Matthew said, "Yeah, I'll take a look at the project." And so then he looked at it, and we agreed on a price. It was very reasonable, but still a lot of money. I mean, he's Matthew Modine. But yeah, and so he narrated the first one. I flew to New York. I directed him, and we became friends. And wow. over the time when I went to make the second one, he signed right on to do it, and so we have a great friendship. And it's interesting because Matthew has these weird connections. In the movie Oppenheimer, he played Vannevar Bush, who is supposedly a member of MJ-12, and in Stranger Things, he played Dr. Brennan. So he was he played a scientist running a top secret government program in a documentary about top secret government programs. And the original Stranger Things was originally called Montauk, which was going to be, that's what this was basically about. That show is the Montauk experiments, on steroids. But so yeah, Matthew signed on for the first one. He signed on for the second one. It was just going to be a director's cut, and then it turned into a sequel. So I had to keep flying to New York and recording them. And we always have fun. And so it was really cool.
That's cool. Yeah. It's always nice to have someone well-known to help promote your movie.
Well, what I respect about Matthew, he's been married to the same woman since before he made Vision Quest. That marriage has survived a Hollywood career. He's got 2 successful, well-adjusted kids. And I remember I said to him, I'm like, Matthew, I respect your film career, but what I respect about you the most is that you've been able to hold a traditional relationship and marriage together through the craziness of Hollywood. And that speaks to who Matthew is. He's a real, just genuine guy. He doesn't even really use managers and agents and all of this Hollywood infrastructure. He's got a couple of people he trusts that take care of his business, and he doesn't play the games. And he's just genuine. And so I feel privileged that he's doing that he's, narrating my films. And we got Alan Howarth, the guy that did Halloween and Christine and Escape from New York and all these John Carpenter movies. He came in at the last minute and did the whole soundtrack for the film, and it's coming out on Sony. So, I just got a lot of blessings on this project.
So the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is a way to sort of interface with the madness in Hollywood and bring some legitimacy and attention to the UFO subject in a way. Because look what happened to the Fire in the Sky movie. Great movie until they brought him on board and
steampunk aliens and the like.
Yeah.
The Hollywood Disclosure Alliance exists to make sure that as much as we can, people that are making productions about this at least know enough of the truth so that they're not going off the rails. Because starting in 2017, the UFO field became more important, but it also, all of a sudden there's money to be made, and all of a sudden there's sharks in the water, and not all of these people care about trying to tell the truth. They care about making a buck. And so you had a lot of people out there making UFO movies that didn't know anything about the topic. And, that stuff J.J. Abrams put out was a classic example of that. It was really not super great documentaries, ignored a lot of facts and misportrayed a lot of other ones, but they were cashing in on the moment. Right. So the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance exists to try to, as much as we can, to try to temper that.
All right. Your movie is very multifaceted. I really appreciate that you brought in researchers, Mike Barra, Paul Hynek, Richard Dolan, and others, superstars in the field. So first, thank you for that. And, as far as that was intentional, I'm assuming, trying to bring in researchers, contactees, whistleblowers, the disclosure movement, Congress people, all of it.
Well, yeah, because the story starts with the brick walls and the nuts and bolts of Washington, D.C., but it rapidly goes way beyond that. And so that was the journey that I took, doing my part for the disclosure movement and where I ended up. And each one of these people is integral at certain parts. I mean, there's 30 people in this doc, just about. You'll have some of them only appear once, but where they appear and what they have to say is important, and who they are gives them that credibility. So it's a very complicated story that gets weaved and gets woven, and it's just really cool to have all these people that, these guys had to agree to be interviewed by me, and some of them I've interviewed multiple times over the years. So I have a pretty good collection, and it's an honor to be able to put that many people in this film with original interviews. It really is.
Well, having done a number of shows on TV myself, they interview you for hours and hours, right? And ultimately you can only use a little bit. So you probably have enough material for 10 movies.
If I never picked up another camera, behind me, I have a closet probably full of 80 hard drives. And a lot of them are unpublished interviews with people we've lost. I've got Edgar Mitchell. I've got a lot of Roger Lear. I've got a lot of Stanton Friedman. I've got quite a few. Jim Mars, I've got a whole unpublished interview with him. I don't know what's ever going to happen to it. I suppose when I pass away and leave my hard drives to MUFON, somebody like Michael Schratt will come in and go through them and might do something with them.
We love Michael Schratt.
Him and I are doing a new project. It's called Stringfield Theory, and we're reenacting Leonard Stringfield's biggest cases with AI. It's going to come out probably later this year. It's pretty cool.
I am so glad to hear that. We absolutely adore Michael Schratt. He's one of the few boots on the ground researchers out there. I think he's absolutely the real deal.
Man, he lives for the work. He really does. I mean, this is a guy who's pretty much dedicated everything,
he has
including all of his resources.
Need to do it. It's like a dog with a bone. He won't let go of it. He's going to go through all of it. We watched him for an entire summer out in New Mexico, digitizing as much information as he could in one major library out there. And it's just an insane amount of knowledge that he's amassing that he knows now.
Yeah, and MUFON got the Leonard Stringfield files, and Michael came out and went through those, and that's what we're making a film about. So yeah, he's a trip. I like Michael Schratt a lot. Him and I talk at least once every couple of weeks.
And tell him that when he started back in YouTube, he's putting his videos out now, and we've been really encouraging him to stay out there and keep doing it, and not to get frustrated. That people do hear him and listen to him. And
yeah, he's having his moment for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another facet that you cover: bringing in scientists. Michio Kaku, of course, world-renowned, highly respected, kind of shifted from the skeptical side towards, I think, more accepting that there's validity to this phenomena. Because I remember hearing him on Coast to Coast years ago, and he's like, "We need an alien ashtray," or something along those lines.
Yeah, he would say things like that. I interviewed Michio Kaku on my birthday in 2022, and I couldn't think of a better birthday present. This is a guy that I've interviewed a lot of major scientists, Russell Targ, Bill Tiller, a lot of these guys that were at the forefront of, cutting edge physics and reality. But he was the one that was always escaped my list. And I finally got to interview him. He's a lot more in the first film than this one. He's really only got a spot at the end when we're talking about society adapting to this knowledge. But yeah, I couldn't have thought of a better way to spend my birthday. I just got to sit eye to eye with Michio Kaku for 2.5 hours. It's like, yeah, buddy. When you guys understand when you're in that room with these people, especially when you're doing an intimate interview, it's just you and maybe a camera guy, and it's just you and that person. I always look my interview subjects right in the eye, and I believe there's a certain transference of energy that happens during these interviews. And when you are able to, like I just interviewed Carlos Santana. I mean, that was 2 hours with this guy. It's like, how many people get 2 hours eye to eye with Carlos Santana? It's like, and he signed my guitar, and I swear I play better now.
Bring it up to him. Thank you for that. He's like, "Why are you talking about Carlos Santana?" Because I got an issue. For some reason, I'm talking about him, and thank you. Now I got confirmation of why that's in my head. I have been looking you up, by the way.
That's really funny that you would, yeah. Yeah. I'm doing a project for JJ Hertock, the author of the Keys of Enoch. I'm making a film about his life's work, and Carlos Santana was influenced heavily by the stuff that he did. So it's one of the,
now, have you ever seen a UFO, Ron? I didn't ask you that yet.
Well, I'm in Sedona. You see a lot of weird stuff for sure. Patrick from Vetted came out, and I'm helping him with his documentary, and I facilitated his trip to Sedona. He's making one called Psionics, and we went out to Bradshaw Ranch with night vision and got some crazy stuff out there.
Well, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, Bradshaw Ranch. I wonder about that. All right, Kirsten Gillibrand. Am I pronouncing that right? Gillibrand, right?
Yeah, Gillibrand, yeah.
Yeah, I like her energy. She seems to be really honestly trying to get to the truth of this.
Well, she's the one that thought up Arrow, and we all know how that turned out. So, in the film, there's a thing where it's even in the trailer, she's guaranteeing whistleblowers safety if they go to Arrow. She really believed in what she was doing. I don't know where she's at now, but she believed that Arrow was going to be a good vehicle to get disclosure. It hasn't turned out that way, obviously, in a lot of people's opinion, but I think that she was coming from the right place. But I also know that over time, she's been sucked into we're going to tell you stuff that you can't tell anybody else. And most of the players at this point have been sucked into that. Tim Burchett is trying everything he can to tell people what he's being told. But he's
I love hearing him on TV. He seems like very genuinely trying to, very open and transparent to the degree that he can be, because he said there's stuff he can't talk about.
Yeah. And I feel bad because in the very beginning of this, and you'll see in the new film, I actually briefed him about stuff that he's now gotten confirmation from, but things that the government guys can't tell him. And he's in a difficult position just like anybody else. He went down to Eglin Air Force Base, and they fought their way in to talk to these pilots, and they were shown and told things that he can't talk about. And so most of the politicians that we're seeing have been dragged into the box, unfortunately. And so now they are now part of this disclosure that we're doing, that they're doing. The new narrative disclosure that is going to be like a fraction of the truth that the powers that be have decided we're going to get. They're all a part of that now.
Here's a question which is brought up, I think, often. Why do we need them, I'm assuming government, to disclose anything when we already know?
Thank you.
Well, absolutely. That's why you see in the trailer, it's like it's starting to sound like a broken record. And what I go on to say in the film is we are only going to get so much out of this process, and that if we're going to find the answers, we need to go out and we need to find them ourselves. And the place that we're going to find these answers is introspection, experiencers, studying phenomenon that the government can't cover up and hide, and that the ultimate answers are going to come from accepting certain elements of the esoteric, because we can't explain all of this without acknowledging it. And so, that's exactly the point.
Yeah, I don't think we need them. I think it would be nice.
No.
It would be nice to, the world wants this official disclosure. It's just so we're not going to get it because they can't. They're going to tell us something, but they're not going to be like, hey, humanity, here's the whole shooting match. We're not getting it from those guys, even the ones that know. And I'm not even sure that very many of them even know anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, here's another question from Dr. Nils Rasmussen. What are you, Ron? Talking to skeptics, what is your best example or fact that you use to change people's minds? Skeptics, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, for one thing, you can't change people's minds. and if you can certainly try to make a compelling case, but in a lot of cases, it's just not worth it. But that question, skeptical about what? Because, just in this conversation, we've covered so many things, from the nature of reality to what these things are. I think the angels and demons thing, when I get on these shows where people are insisting that that's it, these are people that are clinging to that beyond all else, to the point where they're rabid about it. And, you try to make the case that you need to be open-minded and be willing to entertain other possibilities that don't necessarily exclude your own particular belief. But if you can't do that, then there's nothing I'm going to be able to say to you that's going to get you to look at anything else, because your mind's made up.
The only hope that anybody on this planet has is to learn to know all that is knowable before they proceed in anything they think, act, or do. That's all you can do. And you can throw information out there all day long, and it's not going to do any good. And I can talk until I'm blue in the face, and it's not going to do any good. So what I tell people after I've spoken is that you need to go and challenge me. Go look up what I say, and then come back at me, and let's have a conversation then. And if you're going to be religious about it, don't call me back, because you're wearing blinders and you won't see the truth anyway. And I can't help you. And
yeah, they're a tough lot.
Because
somebody named Eric said, prove we aren't in hell, Ron. I don't know if I can prove that. There's a lot of people saying that it's a prison planet and our souls are being recycled and we're being ruled by blah, 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 blah. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't think we're in hell.
All of that.
Having been out of body and gone to the house.
Really, I prove that we're not in hell every day by the life that I live. I'm doing exactly what I want. I have everything I could possibly want.
Yeah.
I'm well adjusted. I'm happy, generally. And it's like when you're living your dream, it's hard to think that must be hell. So if you think you're in hell, then you're probably not living your dream. You might be living your nightmare.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing what you love doing, you're not actually working, are you? If you're having fun, in a way. All right.
And poetic poems. I sure am religious about it. All I'm saying is that there's nothing wrong with a lot of religious teachings, even in its most traditional, distilled sense. Works for a lot of people. It's a very good set of codes for how to live your life while you're here in this realm.
That's a good thing. Yep, you're right.
Unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't walk the walk. They talk the talk. But if you distill regular religion, Christianity to its core teachings, nothing wrong with that. You could get through your entire life and never go beyond obeying those rules and live a good life. But
have you ever asked the question, does ET believe in God? Does ET have a faith in God?
Well, I believe that it's all the same source. Even the Roman Catholic Church at this point has said that extraterrestrial life doesn't interfere with traditional religious teachings. And if consciousness is fundamental, then that same consciousness is fundamental to ET. And any advanced race scientifically and intellectually is also going to advance spiritually. And we're all realizing that we're spiritual beings having our experience in this realm. To think that ET is somehow left out of that, or that it escaped them, is not that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I was taught by ET that they believe in God, but they call God all mind, and their understanding of that is extremely advanced. But it doesn't negate anything we feel here or do here. Okay, we're evolving, and that's what they say. We're evolving, and we're evolving to understand. And you can't really do anything until you get rid of everything that doesn't exist, so that you see what really does exist. That's how they think.
Well, we're on our pathway to knowledge and enlightenment. Right. I just wish people would understand the difference between belief and opinion and knowledge and experience. Yeah. People out there stating their opinions as if it's gospel truth. All right, we have time, I think, for one more question. We're pretty much out of time here. Thank you, Ron. I know this has been
I'm sorry I challenged you so much. I can't really, truly. I hear opinions, and I hear people's beliefs, and I hear what people say, and a lot of stuff that's out there, just so you know, I know it's misinformation and disinformation, and it's really hard. I want to see your movie. I've looked at your other stuff. I know it, I know what you're trying to do, and I think it's a good thing. I really do. You wouldn't be on our show if I didn't think that, just so you know. We vet everybody who comes on this show.
Well, that's cool. Truthfully, we've had fun. It was a spirited discussion. Nobody held back. I know the audience was enjoying and not enjoying it, but I think it was great. And we see this question about Blue Beam.
Yeah.
Richard Dolan wrote a book. He didn't release it.
Oh, really?
It was about false flags. Very, very big book. I still don't know why he didn't release it. He thinks that Project Blue Beam in this day and age would be very difficult to pull off. That with everything that we're already trained to not believe our eyes, not believe our ears, not believe what we're being told. So the idea of faking an alien invasion is way more difficult than it might have been 20 years ago. So if there is a idea to use an alien invasion to bring about an agenda, it's going to have evolved a lot further than there's a flying saucer coming in and attacking us. I suspect that if we have a alien presence showing up, it's going to be an alien presence showing up. It's not going to be some manufactured event.
That makes sense. Yep. Well, I guess we'll see either way.
I know, right?
All right, Ron, here, let me just pull up the movie again. You guys check this out. Accidental Truth Next.
Is it? And it's for view now, right? Or when does it come out?
No, it comes out on June 2nd.
That's right.
The original Accidental Truth is you can rent it on Amazon, but if you want to watch it for free, it's on YouTube Movies and TV. So you can watch it you don't have to pay for it. This one comes out on Amazon and Apple and YouTube Movies on June 2nd. And the website is accidentaltruthnext.com. So you can keep up with the film. And then Preston, if you would put a link to the trailer, the trailer's on YouTube. People can check it out.
Yeah, I sure will. All right. Do you have any last words for the folks who are watching?
Audience, you guys have been great. Thank you so much. The numbers that you're quoting me on your show are pretty staggering. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of response you get. But the spirited discussion will often get more attention than the boring conversation. So we'll see where we get.
Flubber Lane says, enjoying the show. And that was like way back at 9:15.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Nils, all the people that have had things to say. And thank you, Poet. So yeah, this is cool. Appreciate it, you guys.
All right. Then I guess it's time. I just want to give a quick shout out to all you folks. Thanks for watching the show. Truly appreciate it. We love all of you. Absolutely. Heidi Hansen, namaste. You guys absolutely were so very generous.
We put every dollar you send us into the show. We just want you to know that. I mean, either equipment or things, you drive our show, and we really, truly appreciate you 100%. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, all of you. Louise, the Owl Man, Super Tinker, Texas Cacti, OC Angie, amazing. All right, there was a few questions we couldn't get to, but we got pretty much all of them. All right, Dolly, you want to take us out?
Sure. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in tonight. We're coming to you from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana from the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM, and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we're on YouTube. My last statement to you all tonight is go live in joy, be happy, believe in life. Life is good. No matter what else is going on around you, you still have to live every day of your life. Know all that is noble and then proceed. Good night, everyone. We love you.
Thanks for giving